Hey now, it's the Deadhead Daddy, and welcome to the second installment of Groovy Room Stories. And today, by request, I am doing How I Got Back into the Grateful Dead. Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and say that it's not really fair. It's not really fair that I did not listen to the Grateful Dead for 10 years. I do have memories of listening to them and like hanging out with people and just trying to sing their songs and that kind of stuff. But they're sporadic. You know, it wasn't really until 2008, 2009 that I really got back into them. And started partying a little bit again. And so I went out to the store and I bought the very best of the Grateful Dead. Now, mind you, look at this. I listened to this thing so many times that the label flaked off, which I've never had happen to a CD. So I got really back into them. And I was also in a period in my life that I wasn't super happy with my life. I was living a belief system I didn't necessarily agree with anymore. I was not in a good place in my marriage. I had a job I really didn't like and wasn't treated well. And so it was a rough period. And listening to the Grateful Dead, the thing that speaks the most to me and means a lot to me and resonates with me is that no matter what the lyrics are about, no matter what the song is, there is always this underlining sense of hope and of perseverance and surviving and pushing through and getting through your experiences. And that to me is what the central message is of the Grateful Dead's not only body of musical work, but even them and their stories. I mean, so it was really resonating with me in a time that I needed the music. So, I had sold all of my stuff. That's why I had bought the very best of. I had sold all my CDs to pay bills and to eat and try to take care of my family. And that was the first one that I had grabbed a hold of and listened to it nonstop. So then I started poking around. In our area, anyways, Grateful Dead is not the easiest thing to find. In fact, it's only been like the last year, or maybe 6 months, that I finally completed all the studio albums on both vinyl and CD. By the way, I am looking for them on cassette and 8-track just to complete the collection. So if you got any sitting in the attic you're not listening to, message me. We can figure something out. Anyways, so I picked up a few cassettes and, and some CDs and stuff like that. But I walked into a used record store that used to be in Ravenna, Ohio, and the guy had this thing, which is essentially a bootleg version of the Dead Set show. I believe the real version is called Dead Ahead. Forgive me. Feel free to correct me or give further details in the comments. But this thing right here, I watched it a few times, but then what had happened was my marriage started to fall apart, and I put it in one night to try to calm me down, and then I found that I had to listen to this show every night in order to fall asleep, and if I didn't do it, I couldn't sleep. So that became this daily habit, and so I have this show and these songs just getting entrenched into me. So eventually I want, and especially more so when there was a period where I packed up the kids and we were living in a little scary apartment in a questionable neighborhood, and was trying to raise these kids and work all the time, and I wasn't getting any real help from friends or family. It was me and the kids, and the Grateful Dead just kept me going. Maybe much to the chagrin of my children. Even to this day, none of them are like fans of the band and don't really want to hear it, but too bad. So I'm listening to this all the time, and rebuying albums and becoming obsessed, starting to buy, my shirts again and stuff like that. And 2014 comes around, and forgive me if that isn't when the announcement was made, but I think it was. But Fare Thee Well comes out, and I'm super stoked. Like, this is like, I'm back into the cusp of loving this band more than anything else, and they're going to do a reunion. Well, I'm a realist for the most part. I not really a realist, but because I do have my head in the clouds 90% of the time. But I've never been somebody that's like, ooh, there's a band, whether it be Grateful Dead, Rat Dog, whoever, where I'm going to sacrifice everything to go see them. I've just never been that person. I always try to do my responsibilities first, and then if I have the money, I'll go to a show. Just who I am, for the most part. So I knew that I wasn't going to be able to go to the Fare Thee Well shows, and so what it did is it kind of made me even more excited to listen to them, because I was going to miss this opportunity. And I just kept digging and digging and digging and digging, and this is when I really got into like downloading shows off of Archive, which, shame on you people that we can't do that anymore. But anyways, downloading on Archive and grabbing everything that I could find. And if I ever do the tours I keep talking about, I will show you my Grateful Dead collection. But it isn't the hugest collection by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm happy with it. Anyways, so Fare Thee Well just really put them like more on my radar and more in focus than ever before. And so then when Dead and Company came around, yeah, I was stoked. Well, but again, I didn't really have the money, so our oldest daughter was kind enough to get us tickets. And I think our first show was 2016, forgive me if I'm not right, at in Pennsylvania, Burkittsville town, and it was magical. It was like the closest that I have ever seen since then of what a Dead show is like. And with the exception of, and I forgot the story, but at the beginning of my marriage falling apart, I noticed that the Mickey Hart Band was going to be playing at the Kent Stage, and I had no idea how I didn't know that. So I ran up there with no money and got miracled in, and that show was like being there again. So sorry to backtrack, but anyway, so the Mickey Hart show, so a Dead and Company, and then my wife and I were lucky enough to see Dead and Company a total of 5 times, and one of my daughters got it ever since she was like 5. Loved John Mayer, and was kind of experimenting with her own musical taste. So she wanted to go check it out. She was familiar with stuff. She wanted to see John. So she was able to come to the last 3 times we saw them. So it was great. It was great. And one show we were able to bring 4 out of our 6 kids. So that was fun. Anywho, I'm rambling, but that's okay. So Dead and Company really, 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 really pushed it even further. I have a few of their shows and stuff. But yeah, and ever since then, it's just been bad. You see the walls, you see, me mention, and if you know me, you mention anything vaguely related to this band in my head. You can say, hey, I'm growing roses in my yard. Oh man. Or hey, I don't know. But you know what I mean. So thank you for everybody who was so patient with my ramblings and stuff. out there in the real world that are not necessarily deadheads. But so yeah, that's kind of best as my fractured memory these days can remember how I got back. It was all about being in a place where I was unhappy with virtually every aspect of my life. Depressed, suicidal moments, and that kind of thing. Broke. And the Grateful Dead blessed, or should I say blessed my life with just an unending feeling of hope and joy and excitement for life. And I'm grateful to these individuals who, over the span of 30 years, created some of the most magical music ever that speaks to me unlike anything that I have ever heard before. So, thank you for watching my ramblings. I hope you enjoyed this video. Got to see a tiny little bit of my collection. If there is anything you see in the Groovy Room or anything you want to know about bands that I may or may not, I may like, you know, I like a lot of jam bands, most of them. I just saw Mo this past summer. Feel free to message me on any of my platforms or comment. If there's anything you want to see, any questions you have, like I said, any corrections you want to make, interaction is always good. And that's part of what I'm doing here across all my social medias, is trying to create a positive, encouraging social media presence for deadheads, hippies, people that believe that life can be better. So yeah, I would appreciate any feedback, any shares, and of course, like this video, subscribe to my channel, all of that. I do have some other things in the works. No real ideas for the next story of the Groovy Room, so please. But there are some other things that I'm working on that I'm not going to tell you about to further expand the Groovy Room experience. So yeah, please follow along. Join me on this long, strange trip. I appreciate you all, and I appreciate you for sitting through this video. And as always, stay grateful.